Good afternoon everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video. It's Friday, so you know what that means, it's time for Friday Leaks. Now, this week's are two parts. We have the actual leak itself, and then we have a bit of speculation involved as well, so we're going to dive into that one too. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this week's leak is of the tale of a Beowulf. Now, for those of you who don't know who Beowulf is, you can go check out a TV series. I think it's on Netflix, but if you don't want to do that, I'll give you the quick, too long, didn't read now. So Beowulf is a gate, also known as a goth, and it's actually based off an Old English poem, I believe, but the setting is in Sweden or Scandinavia, so he's going to be of the Norse faction, I believe. Now, the story goes that a man named Hrothgar, that's a bit of a mouthful, who was king of the Danes, you know, his village or his mead hall is under attack by a monster called Grendel. Beowulf comes to slay him. After slaying Grendel, he slays Grendel's mother. These two are both sort of like giants. And then he eventually, I believe, becomes king of the Gateland or the Gothland. A villager of his steals a golden cup from a dragon's hoard. We all know that that's bad, so the dragon's, you know, pretty pissed off, starts sort of harassing him. Beowulf eventually goes and slays him, and I suppose in the battle, unfortunately gets mortally wounded and then passes. So with all of that in mind, then let's look at the concept that we've got here. Okay, so Scandinavia, very cold place, and as is stereotypical in a lot of fantasy games, TV series, we've got sort of a lot of primitive sort of barbarian style look with the fur, alright, to keep them warm during the winter. Got this sort of like bandana, one that even Simon would be proud of, across the forehead here. Stereotypical Viking look, being based in Scandinavia, as mentioned, probably is going to be a member of the Norse faction. We've then got this sort of Nordic heraldry across the breastplate down to the fur sort of lined belt, some skulls from sort of battles or victory past, and we've got the scarring here. You got the fur sort of lined braces with some meaty knuckle dusters on the end here. You would not want to take a punch from one of those. Axe or sidearm, whatever you want to call it, at his side. Quads that most gym goers would be jealous of. And then we've got the fur-lined boots here. Now up here, let's say it looks like we're going to have this sort of dragon skull on the back of the dragon that he slayed, that sort of heraldry, as it were. And then on the right here we have his sword. I kind of get like a bit of a He-Man kind of vibe here, just putting that out there now. And the sword could be Naegling, the one he used to slay the dragon. Since it was broken, could have been reforged by the gods. Now, I do like this sort of fantasy fictional vibe. It's a game, they can twist it, you know, use their own, I forget what the phrasing is, artistic sort of story to make it their own, if you will, so to speak. So I like the idea that perhaps Odin or someone was like, you know, we need you, come answer the call, I fixed your sword, bro. You know, give it to him, and off he goes, kind of thing. So I do like that. I like that they're putting their own spin twist on it with this sort of thing here. So what do we think? Now, I think he's going to be an epic hero. Okay, I don't think he's going to be legendary. I think he will be of epic class, similar to sort of that Ramses Leonidas. You know, it's a cool story, but he's not quite, you know, legendary like Odin kind of thing. So I do think he'll be an epic hero, obviously melee. I do believe then he's probably going to be a brawler, getting up close and personal, high HP. Now, as part of this leak, we also were given the 3D model for him as well. So let's go take a look at that now and how that sort of developed from this concept art we see here to what the model's going to look like in game. So here is the 3D model, and I must say, looking pretty cool. You can see the horns on the back here, the fur really sort of popping now as well. That looks very cool. Still, say, got all the Nordic heraldry, sort of the braided beard, all that kind of stuff there. Still got the quads to die for. But yeah, just a super cool sort of grayscale version of the 3D model. We can also see the backside here now, and there is the dragon head. Now, the grayscale probably doesn't do it justice right now, because it does look a bit like a goat to me. I shouldn't be saying that, considering all the hard work they put in. But I'm sure once shaders have been added and things like that, it won't look like a goat or a ram. Okay. I know what some of you are thinking, bloody big goat. But there, that is the 3D model for Beowulf right there. So, looking forward to seeing it in colour when they get to it. So, abilities. What are his abilities going to be? I imagine something to do with like the Slayer of Monsters, something like that. I don't know if that's what the name's going to be, but it might be something around that. King of the Danes could be his core ability as well. I imagine there's going to be some sort of damage ability, whether that is the ultimate or the core. And then I think there's going to be one sort of utility ability, if you will. So something like, I don't know, attack up, encouraging his allies to sort of move forward. His passive could be something like answer the call, because, the King of the Danes, Hrothgar, was the one who asked him to come help out the mead hall in the village initially. I still can't quite get over the idea of being punched by these. That is gonna sting. But super looking forward to seeing how he turns out. But that is the end of the leak that we know. Okay, we've also been given one final picture, and this is where the fun speculation comes in. So here we are then, the speculation. So we were sent this picture, which quite clearly annotates Beowulf in the middle, but we also have these two silhouettes either side. Now, we have been told that these are not necessarily going to be the next two God leaks, if you will. I suppose it depends how long it takes to get done. But they will be gods in the game that have either already been made or soon to be. Now, again, we don't have any other information whether they are part of the same faction, whether they are different factions, whether they are legendary heroes or rares or anything like that. All speculative. So, I've spent the last maybe hour trawling through the internet, looking at a game that I have loved playing for so long, Smite, to seeing if I can get some ideas there on who these people are. So let's go take a look at these findings. So I'm going to start with the character on the right. Now, what do we see here? So what I see first is quite clearly we have what appears to be a wing. Now, whether that is an angel wing, a dark angel wing, whatever, we have a wing here. Okay, so that was the first thing for me. We're looking at some sort of winged god, winged entity. Then have what look like to be pauldrons, just here, sort of shoulder pads. Then we also have this mask or veil here. Now, this could be a rear view, but I don't believe so. I think this is going to be a front facing. So with that in mind, I am happy to confirm that Angelina Jolie's Maleficent is coming to the game. As you can see here from this picture, evidently it has to be this. But let's assume it's not Angelina Jolie's Maleficent and we're actually looking at a god. There are a few that I think possibly could be. It could be any number of ones, don't get me wrong. But, because the other thing is, I don't know if it's a faction that we already have or whether it's a completely different faction. So I'm going to stick with the ones that we know that exist. So let's start with the first group that they might be, okay? And that is the Greek Furies, or the Erinyes, however you say it. Okay. Now, who were these fabulous people? They were three sort of ancient Greek goddesses of vengeance. They lived in the underworld, and they were sort of personified as curses or ghosts. They carried out punishments on mortals who broke moral and or legal codes. Okay, so that's sort of a brief insight to them. And if you sort of Google sort of like the common appearances, it does differ amongst sources, but if you have a look on the Wikipedia, they're frequently described as wearing black. Now, I do get that sort of black feel, if you will, so to speak, from the Godforge picture. In one sources, they are compared to sort of like monsters or harpies, but they are wingless with hatred dripping from their eyes. And in the Euripides and in Virgil, they are given wings. So that could be one option of what we're looking at here. The second one is Nike. She is the Greek goddess of victory. Again, very much winged here, alright. The only thing is we don't have this sort of veil crown mask at the front here. Now, that doesn't mean to say that, we can't give her one to look cool. But say, definitely not one in sort of this picture, at least right here. Following that, we also have Iris. Now, Iris is the Greek goddess of rainbows. Now, once again, we don't have sort of really like a mask or a veil per se, but we do have another winged character just here. Now, we are sticking to sort of Greece at the moment. Greece is very sort of common, and Olympus will be, no doubt, probably one of the most represented factions to begin with in the game. Now, there are a couple more, and the one that I think it's most likely to be, or that I'm hoping the most that it will be, I'm going to leave till last. So we're going to sort of leave Greece and Rome for a minute, and then we'll come back to it momentarily. So stepping north, sort of outside of the Valkyries, and I don't think it's going to be a Valkyrie because we've already got Brunhild, alright? But we have Freysvelga. Now, I think it's less likely to be this guy because in Norse mythology he's portrayed as a sort of an eagle-shaped originator of wind. It's said that when he flaps his wing, that's what causes the north winds, etc. So I don't think it's going to be him because it's not really an eagle from looking at the Godforge picture. If we just go look at that once again, yeah, definitely not an eagle. So less likely, but again, they are quite within their rights to sort of creative artistry to make him not an eagle. It could still be him. But I think, so Freysvelga, less likely. So this here is Garuda. Now, he is a Hindu god. Again, often depicted with sort of wings, and sort of he's like a he was the mount of Vishnu. He's sort of a divine creature, divine being, so it could be Garuda. It could also be Tengu, Sajobu, I think that's his name. Now he is a Japanese god. He's primarily a human, but he is described often as having bird-like claws and feathered wings. He's got a long red nose and enormous glaring eyes. And now I think that kind of fits the mould a little bit with that sort of initial picture that we had with the sort of, especially the glaring eyes. I think that's the bit that sticks out to me. Because you could quite easily have, if only you could see me point, but yeah, like two sort of massive eye holes that you can look at you. And obviously we've got no concept of a nose, but this here, this little point here, could be a nose. Who knows? Pardon the pun. And the last one that I think it might be, but not necessarily the one that I'm hoping for, is Lei Gong. Now, Lei Gong is a Chinese god. And he's the Chinese god of thunder. Thunder and electricity, which is super, super cool. Again, often depicted as a fearsome creature with claws, bat wings, and a blue body. And here's the fun part that I think Alex will love. Often only pictured wearing a loincloth. So definitely get the nipples out for Alex there. But again, another cool one that has potential, I think. But it's not the one that I'm wanting the most or hoping for the most. Okay. The one I'm really hoping for is Nyx, also known as Nox. And she is a primordial goddess, so similar to Pangu, who was a primordial Chinese god. She is primordial in Greek and Roman. So Nyx is the Greek term, Nox is the Roman term. She is the goddess of night, or like the depiction of night, if you will. Often spotted riding a chariot, which I think is super cool. She is a winged goddess, and sometimes described as having like a black veil or a night veil, black or starry veil on her head, and black or starry veil on her head, covered in stars, black clothing, and all of the depictions that you can sort of Google or see online have this sort of dark figure with these large wings and some sort of mask or veil over the front. Now, so this is the one that I'm really, really hoping that it is, and I'd love to see her in the game. And there's no reason why we can't still have a chariot. Like, this is obviously it's just a snippet. But we have the wings, we have this cool sort of veil mask there, some sick-looking pauldrons. And I'm really, really hoping that this is Nyx or Nox. That will be my guess on who I think this mystery person is. So that is the right-hand side. Sorry, it's a bit of a long video, by the way, guys. But now I'm going to focus on the left-hand side. Now, again, left-hand side, we have, I'm going to presume to be a lady, just from the slightly sort of more dainty figure, as it were. I'm sort of picturing some sort of long hair, shoulders, sort of here's the waistline, if you will. Now, the interesting part is the thing above her, okay? Now, it looks to me like some sort of, like a wooded sort of figure. Now, whether that is something on her back, or whether she's carrying some sort of staff. Some say some sort of woodland god creature, something of that ilk, is my guess. Now, the first one that I'm hoping is Nox or Nyx. I imagine it's going to be some sort of slayer. I'm just getting a what's the word? Invoker type of vibe from this one here. Now, again, there are a few potential possibilities that it could be. And again, one that I am hoping is going to be more than the others. So let's go through just a couple of pictures on that as well. So when you look at nature or woodland gods in Google, there's literally 100, but I've sort of narrowed it down to ones that I think are interesting. Now, there are two which I didn't get pictures of, because they weren't great depictions, but they are South American deities. It's all just rocks and things like that, so it's hard to sort of imagine it on this paper. But they were Tanatzin, who is the sacred mother, a goddess of sort of fertility in the earth. And then we also had Ochiquetzal, who was an Aztec goddess of beauty, love, pleasure, and flowers. So those were sort of two sort of potential options that I think it could be. We then come to Bhumi. Now, Bhumi is a Hindu goddess of earth. She is often depicted as a beautiful woman sat on a lotus with an owl as a companion. Now, this is a very pixelated image. I do apologise for that. And I think I like the idea that potentially we could have a character with a pet of some description, an owl. You can use that as a passive ability as well, something like that, or even her main. But you know, a cool character idea, and potentially one that could come. We then have Kerninos. Now, I know I did say I thought it would be a goddess, but it could be a god too. Just nothing saying that. Kerninos is sort of like a Celtic sort of god. So I imagine be sort of Avalonian, and he's sort of the goddess of the god of horned creatures and things like that, which sort of ties in here. Not necessarily horns, but it could be like an ivory staff, something like that. So Kerninos, another option. We then have Demeter. Now, Demeter is the Greek goddess of, I think, the harvest, and the mother of Persephone. Now, Persephone has already been spoiled, so again, sorry, hit the mic. Could be is likely to be in the game at some point. Could be another option sort of coming out of here. You've then also got Hooray as well, which is the Greek god of just the seasons, I suppose. And then we have a Japanese god who I think is sort of going to be the closest to, if I just close up the rest of the pictures and we bring her up. So this is Kono Hanasakuyaheim. I'm hoping I haven't butchered that too much. Kono Hanasakuyaheim. We'll say it once again for good measure. Now, I like this because we have what looks like in this picture from Wikipedia, her clutching like a branch or something here, perhaps, which is then sprouting sort of these sort of trees, which just sort of tie up with the one that we have here. So I think this one is the most likely. Now, I know this is just one picture source from Wikipedia that I'm looking at here, but it seems to me to be the closest. Now, who is Kono Hanasakuyaheim? She's the goddess of Mount Fuji and all volcanoes in Japanese mythology. She's also the Blossom Princess and a symbol of delicate earthly life. She's often considered an avatar of Japanese ice, especially since her symbol is the sakura, which is cherry blossom. I think that's really cool. I love that. I think it sort of works well with this image once again. And yeah, I think that is going to be our second goddess here. Now, if it is that lady, goddess of Mount Fuji, obviously there's going to be some sort of fire in there. And she's also associated with cherry blossom too, which I think is kind of cool. Now, they are quite, what's the word, opposite ends of the spectrum. Like fiery eruption, cherry blossom. They are two very different ends of the scale there. But very cool. And so those are my guesses. We have Nyx, the goddess of night, primordial goddess of night there. And Kono Hanasa Kuyaheim on the left-hand side here. Long one today, guys. Apologies for that. Thank you for sticking with me. Look after yourselves. Take it easy. Work hard, but as always, play harder. And I'll see you in another video soon. Cheers.